How were the weddings in the Old Testament? Although in biblical times there were diverse cultures around the world, the Bible mainly follows the history of the people chosen by God, the Israelites, until the arrival of the Messiah. Therefore, beloved brothers, in this video we will focus on the Jewish marriage customs. Let us begin by considering that the marriage that was born after the wedding was the heart of the family. The first command that God gave to Adam and Eve was that the man should leave his father and his mother, joined to his wife, that both become one flesh, and that they grow and multiply. The ancient rabbis affirmed that a man was not considered fully a man until he fulfilled this mandate. However, especially in the time of Christ, there were men and women who lived in celibacy with the purpose of being particularly free to serve God, whether through the study of the Torah, teaching, or participation in a special work for the people of God. Jesus and the Apostle Paul seem to have belonged to this category. Jesus praised those who chose this path in Matthew chapter 19, and Paul did the same in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. Now, in the early years of Israel, there seems to have been some tolerance toward polygamy. Let us remember the case of Jacob, who had 2 wives at the same time, Leah and Rachel, and also had children with the servants of both, Bilhah and Zilpah. From these 4 women were born the 12 sons who would become the 12 tribes of Israel. We also find this pattern in some kings of Israel. The most notorious case is that of Solomon, who had 700 wives and 300 concubines, a practice that ended up turning his heart away from the Lord. When considering this, in general, we can say that only men with great resources could afford to have more than one wife. Although the Bible does not directly condemn polygamists, it does show clearly that polygamy brought serious consequences, especially conflicts between the sons in matters related to inheritance and family leadership. By the time of Jesus, polygamy among the Jews had notably decreased until it practically disappeared. There is no mention whatsoever of this practice in the New Testament. Jesus called every man to love his wife and set aside concessions allowed in the Mosaic Law, reaffirming God's original design, the union of one man and one woman, united in fidelity until death separates them. After mentioning these details, beloved brothers, let us develop in depth how the weddings of the Jews in the Old Testament were. Marriage took place at a very early age among the ancient Jews. Most rabbis proposed 18 years as the most appropriate age for men, although it could often be a little earlier, especially in times when war was less common. Women, for their part, married almost as soon as they were physically ready for marriage, generally around 13 or 14 years old. In most cases, marriages in biblical times were not made for love in the modern sense, but for the mutual benefit of both families involved. Jewish marriages were usually arranged by the parents of the bride and groom, and began with a formal commitment called betrothal. The personal feelings of the bride and groom were rarely taken into consideration, and it was possible that they had not even met before the betrothal. In some cases, these commitments were agreed upon when the couple was still very young and were maintained until both reached the sufficient age to marry. However, there were exceptions, and arranged marriages rarely forced young people who felt absolutely no attraction or interest in each other. The predominant criterion in the ancient world, and still valid in many places today, was that marriage did not revolve mainly around romantic love, but around survival. Not only 2 people were united, but also 2 families that committed to support each other mutually. Beauty and romance existed and were valued, but life and stability had to be sustained on firmer foundations when a future bride was chosen for a young man, whether by his parents or in rarer cases by his own initiative. A period of approximately 1 year called engagement or betrothal followed. During this time, the couple continued living separately, while delicate and often prolonged negotiations were carried out between the families related to the dowry and other agreements. The groom or his family paid the dowry to the father of the bride. This payment was made as recognition of the loss that the bride's family suffered by parting with a useful member of the household. It was also understood that part of this payment served as economic protection for the woman, in case her husband died prematurely. Similar customs are still observed in various countries of Africa, where the dowry may consist of goods such as livestock, especially cows. Once the period of betrothal was concluded and all agreements reached and formalized, the wedding could finally be celebrated. Weddings usually extended during a period of 5 to 7 days. Autumn was the most favorable season for marriages. The harvest had already been gathered. Concerns decreased, and hearts were calm. The nights were cool and pleasant, which made gathering outdoors enjoyable. Usually, the whole town participated in the celebration. At the beginning of the wedding feast, at nightfall, the groom, accompanied by his friends, went to fetch his bride at her father's house. He wore especially splendid clothes and sometimes even wore a crown. A procession was then formed, led by one of the groom's friends, who acted as master of ceremonies and remained at his side throughout the celebration. The bride was carried on a litter in the middle of the procession. She was richly dressed, and during the journey, traditional wedding songs were sung, many of them inspired by the Song of Songs. For example, what Song of Songs, chapter 3, verse 6 says, "Who is this coming up from the wilderness, like a column of smoke, perfumed with myrrh and frankincense, and with all aromatic powder?" When the procession arrived at the groom's house, his parents pronounced a traditional blessing elaborated from the scriptures and other sources. After the prayers, the night passed between games and dances. The groom participated in the festivities, while the bride withdrew with her bridesmaids and friends to a room prepared for her. The next day, the main wedding feast was celebrated with a general atmosphere of rejoicing and a kind of collective rest in the town. At the end of the day, a meal was offered in which men and women were served separately. This was also a special moment for the delivery of gifts. The bride, dressed completely in white, was surrounded by her bridesmaids, usually 10. She sat under a canopy while traditional songs and blessings were sung and recited. During the night, the groom arrived. Although the exact ritual words are not known with total certainty, there seems to have been a dialogue between the groom and the bride, reflected in the Song of Songs, chapter 1. Let us pay attention to what the bride says in verses 2 to 4. "Oh, that he would kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. For your love is better than wine, more than the scent of your soft ointments. Your name is like ointment poured out. Therefore the maidens love you. Draw me after you. We will run. The king has brought me into his chambers. We will rejoice and be glad in you. We will remember your love more than wine." Now notice the groom's response in verses 13 and 14. "Arise, my love. Come with me, my beautiful woman, my dove who hides in the clefts of the rocks, in the hollows of the mountains. Show me your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is pleasant and beautiful is your countenance, beloved brothers." The dialogue between the maiden and the young man begins with this passionate desire of the bride who longs to experience the love of her beloved. We are quickly impressed by two complementary truths. The maiden is neither weak nor passive, and the young man in turn exercises respected leadership. Undoubtedly, she is a strong woman. In fact, almost double the verses of the song come from her lips in comparison with his. Here does not appear the image of an aggressive man, nor of a reluctant or victimized woman. Both share the same desire, a desire given by God. Now the groom's friend played a very important role in the wedding celebration and was considered the one who united the couple. He rejoiced upon hearing the voice of the groom conversing with the bride and was glad to see that his work had been blessed with a happy ending. In John chapter 3, verse 29, we read, "It is the groom who marries the bride, and the friend of the groom simply rejoices to be able to stand beside the groom and hear his vows." Therefore, Hearing that he is successful fills me with joy. Once the couple was together, all the other men and women also joined the celebration. Apparently, the leaders of the synagogue or other religious authorities imparted blessings to the couple already gathered under the canopy. The exact words of these blessings and rituals are not known with certainty and seem to have varied according to the place and the time. After this, the nighttime feast began. After dinner, the husband took his wife to the nuptial chamber. On the wedding night, a special cloth or garment was used, which was then kept or given to the wife's parents. The bloodstains on this garment were considered legal protection for the woman in case she was later accused of not having been a virgin or of having been unfaithful before marriage. Let us read Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 13 to 21. When a man takes a wife, and after going into her, he hates her, and charges her with faults that give cause to speak, and says, I took this woman and went into her, and I did not find her a virgin. Then the father of the young woman and her mother shall take and bring out the evidence of the virginity of the maiden to the elders of the city at the gate. And the father of the young woman shall say to the elders, I gave my daughter to this man as wife, and he hates her. And behold, he charges her with faults that give cause to speak, saying, I did not find your daughter a virgin, but here is the evidence of the virginity of my daughter. And they shall spread the garment before the elders of the city. Then the elders of the city shall take the man and punish him, and fine him 100 pieces of silver, which they shall give to the father of the young woman, because he spread a bad reputation over a virgin of Israel, and he shall have her as wife, and he shall not be able to divorce her all his days. But if it turns out to be true that virginity was not found in the young woman, then they shall bring her out to the door of her father's house, and the men of her city shall stone her, and she shall die, because she did a vile thing in Israel by fornicating in her father's house. Thus you shall put away the evil from among you. Beloved brothers, it is important to understand that in ancient Israel, virginity was highly valued. It was considered a great loss to renounce it before marriage. And if it was known that a woman had lost it, her chances of marrying were considerably reduced. According to custom, a Jewish woman was to consummate for the first time with her husband on a special cloth which collected small drops of blood that were accepted as proof of her virginity. This blood-stained cloth became the property of the married woman's parents, who kept it as evidence. Many people argue that this custom of proving a woman's virginity is absurd, since it is not always conclusive. Some have responded that it worked more frequently when women married at 13 or 14 years old, as was common in Old Testament times. However, for whatever reasons, the so-called virginity tests, like blood-stained sheets or garments, although not infallible, were recognized in the ancient Near East as valid indications of previous virginity and are still accepted among certain peoples today. The commentator Clark adds, a similar custom to the one mentioned is observed among Muslims to this day. Now, if the wife was not found a virgin, she was taken to the door of her father's house, and there the men of the city stoned her because she had committed a shameful crime in Israel by having behaved immorally while living under the authority of her family. All this reinforces the principle that virginity was deeply valued in Israel. Today, too many people, especially women, sell themselves cheaply by easily giving away their virginity. A man illustrated this reality with a true story about a friend who owned an antique store who had a table for sale. The table was worth $600, but was reduced to $300. A buyer tried to haggle the price to $200, but the owner refused. Upon realizing the true value of the table, he even raised the price to its original value, even when $300 was offered. Finally, the buyer paid the $600 and undoubtedly treated the table as something valuable because he had to fight for its price. Similarly, many women who know that men treat them badly have contributed to the problem by selling themselves cheaply without recognizing the value that God has given them. Now, returning to the topic, After the marriage was consummated, the couple of spouses did not usually go immediately to an independent house. It was usual for the husband to take his wife to live in his father's house or to a room prepared within the same family compound. In this way, the new wife joined the husband's clan under the protection and coverage of the patriarchal family. Over time, and according to the resources available, the marriage could establish its own dwelling, although always maintaining a close relationship with the extended family. Thus, married life began within a community structure that guaranteed stability, provision, and continuity of the lineage. The husband was the head of the house, and upon him fell the responsibility of making the final decision in matters that affected the well-being, security, and economy of the family. Chapter 31 of the book of Proverbs describes in detail several of the responsibilities of the wife within the home. Among them were the care of the house, the making and preservation of clothing, certain purchases and sales, as well as the general supervision of domestic activities. Although the woman lived under the authority of the husband, and from the legal point of view belonged to his house, she enjoyed an honorable position and important privileges. The husband had the duty to love her, value her, and respect her. Among faithful Hebrews, it was common for husbands to love their wives, and when the wife acted with wisdom and walked according to the law of God, her word was heard and her decisions were approved. Beloved brothers, this has been a brief tour through the way marriages worked in the times of the Old Testament. I sincerely desire that it has been of much blessing to you. I want you to know that I do these studies with much love, with the purpose that together we grow in the knowledge of the Word of God. Therefore, I encourage you to support us by giving a like to this video and subscribing to the channel so that you do not miss any of the contents that we will be sharing. May the Lord bless you greatly.